Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava Batra, page 46. Top of the page, with the words Ella, Lav, Deleka Edim, etc. Rather, is it not referring to a case where there are no witnesses to the transfer, and it teaches that the craftsman is deemed credible? Since if he had wanted to, he could have said to him, it is purchased, and that is why it is in my possession. He is deemed credible with regard to his claim about his fee as well. This supports the ruling of Rabbah that if there are no witnesses, the craftsman is deemed credible if he says that the item belongs to him. The Gemara rejects this proof. Lo, the olam deleka edim v'hu delo ra'am. The Gemara rejects this proof. No, actually, perhaps the Bride is referring to a case where there are no witnesses to the transfer. But it is specifically referring to a case where the owner did not see the cloak in the possession of the craftsman, who could consequently deny ever having received it from the owner. Therefore, it is not a proof in support of the ruling of Rabbah that the craftsman would be deemed credible, even if there are witnesses that it is currently in his possession. Meisfer of Nachman bar Yitzchak, Uman ein lo chazaka, Uman hu ein lo chazaka, Acher yesh lo chazaka. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak raises an objection to Rabbah's ruling from Shmuel's paraphrase of the Mishnah. A craftsman does not have the ability to establish the presumption of ownership of property in his possession. This indicates that it is specifically a craftsman who does not have the ability to establish the presumption of ownership, but another person in similar circumstances has the ability to establish the presumption of ownership. Heichi dami, what are the circumstances in which this would apply? If it's referring to a case where there are witnesses that the person in question received the item from another, why is it that another person has the ability to establish the presumption of ownership when there are witnesses that he received this item as a deposit? Rather, is it not referring to a case where there are no witnesses and yet the Mishnah teaches the craftsman does not have the ability to establish the presumption of ownership? This indicates that a craftsman does not establish the presumption of ownership under any circumstances, contrary to the ruling of Rabbah. The Gemara concludes the refutation of the opinion of Rabbah is indeed a conclusive refutation, and his ruling is rejected. Tanu Rabbanan. The Gemara discusses another halacha pertaining to the giving of an item to a craftsman. The sages taught if one's utensils were mistakenly switched with another's utensils in the house of a craftsman, this one who received the wrong utensils may use them until the time when that one whose utensils he received comes and takes his. But if his utensils and another's utensils were mistakenly switched in a house of mourning or in a house of a wedding feast, this one who took the wrong utensils may not use them in the interim. This one who took the wrong utensils may not use them in the interim until the time when that one whose utensils he took comes and takes his. I would say by me it's different because she said whatever is in there you can use several times. So I relied upon that. The Gemara asks, what is different in the first clause where he may use the utensils, and what is different in the latter clause where he may not? Rav said, I was sitting before my uncle Rav Chia, and he said the explanation to me, and is a person not likely to say to the craftsman, sell my cloak for me after you finish repairing it? It is possible that the craftsman mistakenly sold the utensils of another client instead and gave to that other client the utensils that should have been sold. Since the owner of these utensils received the money from the sale of the other client's utensils, the craftsman has a right to give the remaining utensils to the other client in the interim. This reasoning does not apply in the case of the house mourning or a wedding feast, where one simply took utensils belonging to another. Rav Chia, the son of Rav Nachman, said they taught that it is permitted to use utensils only if the craftsman himself gave them to his customer. As in that case, the above reasoning applies. But if the craftsman's wife or children gave them to him, the customer may not use the utensils, as it is likely that they were given to him in error. And even if the craftsman himself gave the utensils to his customer, we said that it is permitted for him to use them only in a case where the craftsman said to him, for example, I am returning a cloak, without specification. But if the craftsman said to him, I am returning your cloak, then he may not use it, as this is not his cloak, and clearly it was given to him in error. The Gemara presents another statement with regard to craftsmen. Bava said to Rava, come, and I will show you what the swindlers of Pumbedita do. There was a case where the owner of an item said to a craftsman, give me back my cloak that I gave to you to repair. And the craftsman replied, these matters never occurred. The owner responded, but I have witnesses who saw it in your possession. The craftsman says to the owner, that was a different cloak that they saw. The witnesses are uncertain as to whether it was really his cloak. The owner then said, bring it out and we will see it so as to determine whose it is. The craftsman said to the owner, in truth, I will not bring it out, as you have no valid claim to the cloak, and I am not willing to show you another's property. This is the trickery to which Abai referred, as it is not a sincere response, and the craftsman merely wishes to keep the cloak. Rava said to Abaya, the craftsman is saying well to the owner, and his claim will be accepted. As it is taught in the earlier Braita, we're on 46b now, that the owner has a valid claim only when he and witnesses saw his cloak in the possession of the launderer and definitively identify it. He cannot state a claim based on the mere possibility that it is his. This validates the claim of the craftsman of Pumbedita.